Let's give Patrick and Dave another round of applause. That was fantastic. All right, we've already covered a ton of ground this morning, and I'm excited for another awesome fireside chat. I get the pleasure of moderating this one on modernizing systems, streamlining processes, and delivering services. So we have a lot to unpack, and it's my pleasure to invite to the stage Debbie Stevens, Acting CIO of USPTO. Let's give her a warm welcome. Well, Debbie, thanks so much for joining me up here. It's really excited for the conversation. So
yes,
welcome.
Likewise, thank you. It's been very interesting listening to the others' journeys, similar in some respects, and
probably a little different in some respects too.
A little bit different.
Yeah. And so we've talked a lot about agentic AI so far. Obviously, that last panel was on cloud, and there's been some touching on cyber and user experience and things. So as I sort of set in the opening remarks, modernizing government means a lot of different things today. And again, so much of the government is now in the cloud, some aren't, and there's reasons for that, as Dr. Fletcher said in the opening. There's also emerging tech like AI and machine learning that are now used widely across the federal government. So, you know, as you look at what you do as CIO of USPTO, what does modernization look like for you? What are we ultimately talking about when we have this conversation?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think from Dr. Fletcher, I just wanted to set the stage. We're not in 190 countries, we're in one, but we are geographically spread across the U.S., Alaska, Hawaii, and the U.S. territory. So our mission is 24/7 for the productivity of both our patent examining team members and our trademark examining attorneys. So it resonated with me when Dr. Fletcher said about being 100% available, the uptime that we need to maintain, because every minute of our day is in production. Yeah. So of course, we've got about 9,000 patent professionals and another 1,000 trademark examining professionals, and they rely on IT 100%. So when we think about that, and one of our choices at least 2 to 3 years ago was going to the cloud to modernize. It is painful, some of those legacy systems, but we're doing it in a way that is replatforming, recoding, so we can take advantage of the cloud. So I'm really happy with the performance so far. We've been pushing right about now, we're about 58% in the cloud. We're across 3 different clouds. Primarily one of our sponsors here, AWS, but we are in the other 2 main ones. And I think with the cloud, it is the springboard, it's the platform for AI. Yeah. So we aren't trying to, I'll just say, bolt on AI on a legacy platform. It's just not going to work, it's not sustainable. So for us, the AI journey is, and I was listening to the previous speakers and saying, you know, commodity, what can we use going forward? What can we buy? I love when Patrick said, out of the box, come with a full solution. So a couple things that we're very, of course, excited about. We have AI for our patent professionals, a similarity search. So they search, you know, hundreds of millions of pages over the course of a week, and they need AI to help them find similar applications so they can do that comparative analysis. And also more like this technology, similar prior art for them is very important. We're using design vision in our design patent examining community. So again, images that are similar, and they're able to search them. So that's really important. I think Brian Epley mentioned we built and have shared with him our Gen AI platform, and that's certainly internal. It's across all of our business units for certain problems, and you know, it obviously all has to be vetted and approved. But I think mostly our day-to-day users are using it for just like you would in like a chat GPT space, but in our safe space. And then I think lastly, we're exploring, and there's, I think, an RFI out there for the patent team on office, what we refer to office action search, and that's just drafting correspondence, and then trademarks and other word and image search. So we're very diverse.
Busy. I think you sort of answered my next question, but it seems like you have plenty of tangible examples of what modernization looks like at USPTO. Any additional things to share, or are those sort of the key ones?
I think the other thing is, again, building on the cloud. We pride ourselves, all of our external, or most of our patents external systems are in the cloud, so all public facing. It was very interesting to hear from others about improving the digital experience. That's always important to us. And then I think the next thing for us is the trademark applications to get to the cloud.
Fantastic. Well, all great work, a lot of things going on, which leads me to another question. The role of the CIO has evolved quite a bit, and we've already had some panelists talk about, from a business ops perspective to the technology perspective. So what do you see as your biggest role? And I know you're wearing a lot of hats on any day, but are you thinking of it from that business ops, the technology buyer, the acquisition side? Are you thinking from the risk management side and limiting the risk that you're taking on? Obviously, there's the talent, the roadblocks that stand in the way, the innovation, and how you're kind of serving as a Sherpa to get those things done. So maybe put another way, what's your biggest priority that you set when you sort of decide what hat you're going to wear at any one moment?
Yeah, I would say definitely all of the above, and that's obviously no surprise. I think from the technology buyer and that risk, and I think Dr. Fletcher and Patrick were mentioning, we're not into having the old system stay long at all, but plus coming from new systems that we're buying, we want to be able to keep them fresh. So that's also a kind of a new in the technology space that we're trying to promote more. Don't get attached. Continue to change, because as the tools improve, we need to grow with them. I think the interesting part about the talent manager, and it's not any surprise here, so I don't know how many federal CIOs have experienced a reduction in force. I'll raise my hand, and then a couple months later do an unreduction in force. So how does that grab you? So for 2 or 3 months not having some of your staff, and then all of a sudden here they are again. So that's been a very challenging piece. But we're working with the staff. I think some of the previous speakers talked about upskilling and getting them team members in the right positions to be successful. And then I think the last part of your question was about the innovation Sherpa. And I want to say that is where, and I loved how Dr. Fletcher talked about her team being a great team. I have a great team, and I challenged them. And one of the challenges I gave them about 4 to 5 months ago was I wanted to get rid of the lab, non-production, get rid of the lab. It's an anchor in our 5,000 square foot small data center. We also have the larger one in Manassas. I said, get rid of the lab, it's killing me. And they're like, okay. They took the challenge, and I'm so happy for the team. Our cloud and infrastructure team with our partners, GDIT and Microsoft and Blackwatch, in 4 months, they took 2,200 virtual machines and lifted and shifted them into the cloud. And this is the drum roll moment for me, was I was bracing, like, okay, these teams require these, because we do sprints every 2 weeks, and so they are iterating, they are developing. And so I was like bracing the first night, and it was crickets the next morning. I was ready for the development teams to call me and go, what are you doing? And there was just nothing, and I almost had to just reach out to the team and go, did we do one of the lift and shifts last night? And they're like, beaming, and it was just it's such a success story for us. So I think Innovation Sherpa is one that's It's certainly near and dear to my heart.
Amazing. Well, congrats on that. I know it can be stressful, but it sounds like one of the cases where it went successfully, and no better feeling in the world. A number of folks have mentioned earlier sort of the really push to whether it's intra-agency or interagency sharing of resources. OneGov's an example, bringing the whole of the federal government to consolidate resources and kind of get the best buy for things. Also, you mentioned sharing with Brian at Commerce and how you're sharing some tools there. But it's really a big priority under this administration when we talk about efficiency. So cross-agency reuse, and we've also seen GSA come out with its GSAI or USAI, it's been retermed. So how have you looked to your peer agencies as a resource so that you can use something that they're doing when they're doing it well, so you don't have to go out there and reinvent the wheel?
Yeah, that's great, and we're a huge proponent of collaboration, and certainly our best example is in 2021, we partnered with NOAA for their N-Wave network carrier, and it's been a fabulous partnership. Certainly resulted in us having some financial savings as well as boost capability, and that was because of our agency, and who knew the strength of COVID at the time, and having the virtual experience be so robust, and so gathering 8,000 people in a virtual space, you do need that backbone to support it. So we're big proponents of that. I'm working on other opportunities with, certainly with Brian and the team in using the GSA AI platform, as well as in our cloud service provider space, thinking about how do we maximize, and I love when Patrick said, go ahead and have a contract, an acquisition for multiple agencies and get the best economy of scale.
Sure. So we're quickly running out of time. I'm going to throw a couple final questions into one package. You can answer it however you like. But obviously, let's touch on AI a little bit, because it's sort of arrived, and I'm sure it changes things a bit. It's a new dynamic. Everyone's using it, or in some cases not. But it is this new shiny object that folks are looking to use, and that comes with risk and different things. So how has the prevalence and introduction of AI changed, how you think about modernization, and how are you making sure that, as Kelly touched on in the opening and others have, how are you making sure people can use it when they want to?
Yeah, I think, and Brian gave us a little kudo there for our Gen AI platform. We call it Scout, and it's been rolled out across our agency. I'm very interested in understanding how others adopt. We have kind of a slow roll beta right now, and probably around 2,000-3,000 users. But they are using it for the day-to-day tasks. We also have community spaces where they are using it to solve business problems. And so I think that's, going to be hopefully some of the key to adoption, is showing that return to immediate return to the business problem. I think that's where we're hopeful to gather that momentum for not only the early adopters, but the I'll say late bloomers or something like that.
Well, it looks like we have just enough time for a real quick, rapid last question. Ooh. So looking forward, always like to kind of leave with some actionable, forward-looking insights. So any lingering opportunities or roadblocks, maybe thinking of it alternatively, that you need help with, or things that you're really looking to accomplish on your journey to modernize?
Yeah, I think for us, of course, whether we build or buy, AI is basically going to be on the business problem to solve. I think the other thing for us is how do we optimize our now cloud modernization experience? And I think Patrick mentioned FinOps. We're certainly engaged there, but we could use some help there.
Fantastic. Debbie, such a pleasure. This was great. Thank you so much. Best of luck, and let's give her a round of applause. That was fantastic.